Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 17 Pro Max and compare it against the iPhone 13 Pro Max and see how these two phones kind of compare. Now, with these two particular devices, the big thing to keep in mind here is that I'm a big fan of both these particular phones. I think the 13 Pro Max was a very good device when it first came out, and I still think the 17 Pro Max is an excellent device as well. Obviously, the 17 Pro Max is the best iPhone here. This one makes more sense to buy, but I would still say the 13 Pro Max is still a very good option as well. So let's go and see which one is the better one for you. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these particular phones, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular iPhones. The iPhone 13 Pro Max originally came out back in 2021, and when this phone first came out, it was a very, very good iPhone. It was a very big difference coming from the predecessor, which was the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and with this type of phone, you were getting a lot more capability, which was really awesome. With the iPhone 13 Pro Max, you're essentially getting a 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display on the front side. Now, that is a pretty nice type of display, a very nice type of layout to have inside of a device like this, and I would imagine that if you're going to go through and pick up a device, it is a very good option. So this is like a very, very good type of device. It looks very nice. It gets fairly bright, so it's not necessarily like the craziest thing in the world anymore. But I do think for the most part, if you're going to go through and pick up a device, this still looks very, very good. It still is a beautiful type of device, and I just think it still holds up very well when it kind of comes down to it. Now, with something like the iPhone 17 Pro Max, this type of device is essentially going to be giving you a 6.9-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So this one is going to be giving you a slightly bigger type of display when it comes down to it. So that right there is going to be kind of an advantage. In some cases, you are going to be getting a slightly better type of experience. So you're getting a slightly bigger type of display. You're getting a dynamic island, which already kind of cuts down a lot when it comes down to that particular, display size. You're still maintaining a ProMotion display, which in and of itself is very, very nice. And you're still able to get an always on display, things like that the 13 Pro Max doesn't necessarily give you. So if you are kind of looking at this type of device and this type of watch, that right there is going to be kind of like a nice thing going on for this type of device. So in my personal opinion, something like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, it still kind of holds up pretty well, but I will tell you with the iPhone 17 Pro Max, this one is going to be a little bit more of a better option when it kind of comes down to it from that side. Now, they're both giving you charging ports at the bottom, but the iPhone 13 Pro Max, it is going to be giving you a Lightning port, which is going to be, a little bit, older compared to the 17 Pro Max. That's going to be giving you a USB Type-C port. So that right there, again, is going to be a little bit of a better option. And if you're going to go through and, basically get a better option for you, the 17 Pro Max is going to be way better in that particular situation. You're also going to be getting frosted glass backs on the backside, triple camera setups, the MagSafe capability on the backside as well. So those things are going to be another kind of nice advantage when it kind of comes down to it for here. So, for the most part, that is also another really, really, good thing going on here too. It's not the biggest deal, but that is going to be like another big thing to keep in mind here as well. Now, when it comes down to the price tag, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is going to be costing about, a couple $100. So it's going to be like $300 to $400 for the most part, which isn't really like a crazy big deal, but it is going to be a little bit of an advantage for the most part than the 17 Pro Max, which is going to be costing a little bit more. So that is going to be another kind of thing to keep in mind here too. If you're trying to get the device that is going to be cheaper or better value per dollar, something like the iPhone, 17 Pro Max, it is going to be slightly more expensive, but at the same time, it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world, but the 13 Pro Max is definitely going to be able to save you a little bit of money when it comes down to it from that particular side as well. Now, when it comes down to some other areas of these particular devices, the cameras on the backside are also something else, to kind of keep in mind here as well. So they're both going to be giving you triple camera setups. However, with something like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, this is going to be a significantly, different type of experience. It's going to be slightly older, and it's going to be giving you a slightly better type of experience for the most part for how old this camera is. But the 17 Pro Max is the best iPhone. For a brand new iPhone, this thing is really, really good, and it's clearly a better option than the 13 Pro Max, but the 13 Pro Max is still a pretty decent camera for how old this thing is. So it's going to be fairly old. It's going to be fairly, interesting to say the, neat for the most part. But I will tell you, in my personal opinion, if you're going to go through and, pick up a device, the iPhone 17 Pro Max is going to be giving you a significantly better camera. It's going to be giving you 8x zoom versus the 3x zoom on the 13 Pro Max. It's giving you up to 4K at 120 frames per second on the 17 Pro Max, whereas the 13 Pro Max gives you 4K at 60. You're also still able to get that center stage camera on the front side of the 17 Pro Max, and you're getting dual capture mode on the 17 Pro Max as well, where the 13 Pro Max is going to be giving you none of those features. So that is going to be a little bit of a downside. I will say, in my personal opinion, if you are going to go through and, pick up a device, it is still very, very nice to be able to go through and pick up a device like the iPhone 13 Pro Max that is still going to be giving you a good experience. But the 17 Pro Max is definitely a really good option when it kind of comes down to it. So from that side, that is kind of another really big thing to keep in mind there for the most part as well. Now, on top of that, I think another important thing to keep in mind here too is the fact that when you're going to go through and pick up a device like this, both of these phones right now are still supported with software. So that is kind of another really big thing to keep in mind here too, because both of these particular devices are still going to go through and still give you a good experience and a good, experience for the most part, which I think is really, really nice. Now, I do think that if you are going to go through and pick up a device, the 17 Pro Max is going to be the one that's going to last for a much longer period of time. And I do think if you are going to go through and pick up a device, like I stated, this one does make a lot of sense for you for the most part to kind of, pick up, because it's going to be the one that's going to last longer. Now, on top of that, another big thing to keep in mind here too is that if you are going to go through and pick up these types of devices, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is going to be one that's going to be giving you a slightly better experience. Sorry, the 13 Pro Max is going to be giving you a slightly older experience, not better, older experience. It's going to be giving you that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the 17 Pro Max is giving you the A19 Pro chipset inside with 12 gigabytes of RAM. So that right there is going to be another really big difference. If you are going to go through and pick up a device, this is going to be another really big option here. Because if you are looking at a particular device here, you are going to be getting, a little bit of a different type of experience, because the 17 Pro Max is going to be so much better. It's going to be so much faster. And I do think if you are going to go through and pick up a device, this is going to be another really big thing. Because if you're going to go through and pick up a device, the 17 Pro Max is going to be so much faster. And I feel like, it's going to be one of the fastest iPhones you can basically buy. And that right there is also another really big deal. Because if you're going to go through and pick up something, like I mentioned before, it does make a lot of sense to go through and buy something like an iPhone 17 Pro Max that is going to be so much faster. So, in my personal opinion, what I can definitely tell you is that buying a device like an iPhone 17 Pro Max, it is going to be one of the best options out there, right? It's an amazing phone with a ton of capability. And I would imagine that if you're in the market and you're going to go through and pick up a device like an iPhone 17 Pro Max makes a lot of sense for sure. It's a beautiful device and has a bunch of capability, but I would imagine that the 13 Pro Max, for the most part, is still like a good iPhone. It still is giving you a lot of nice things, and it's a good phone for sure, but definitely something like an iPhone 17 Pro Max, it is a really good device, and that one without a doubt makes a lot more sense to go and buy rather than something like an iPhone 13 Pro Max. So the choice is yours, but in my personal opinion, that's kind of how I see these devices kind of holding up for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.